Welcome to today's explainer on the high cost of the wedding spectacle. We're going to dive right into this massive social shift we're seeing. You know, how our most intimate traditional unions have somehow morphed into these high-stress, debt-inducing theatrical productions. We'll be looking closely at the impact of modernity on our changing society, specifically focusing on how the beautiful, grounded roots of tradition, like what we see in the rich Rajasthani cultural environment, are just being completely overshadowed by all this wasteful expenditure. So let's just get right into it. I want you to think about the last wedding you attended. Got it in your head? Okay, now compare that to how things used to be. Historically, a wedding required practically nothing to be deeply meaningful. We're talking 2 pairs of simple clothes, a priest to solemnize the vows, and a humble garland. That was the whole shebang. The focus was entirely on the union. But today, it's literally become an event. I mean, the moment you look at the budget for one of these massive modern gatherings, your breath just kind of catches in your throat. We've traded all that beautiful simplicity for this extravagant production that just drains resources before the couple even says I do. And the crazy part is, this overwhelming escalation, it doesn't even start on the wedding day. Nope. In our fast-changing society, the whole show-off culture starts weeks, sometimes months earlier, right in the palm of your hand. Because of the pressures of modernity, it feels like the entire affair just has to be broadcasted to the world. So way before the physical event even happens, there's this massive digital facade that has to be perfectly constructed and maintained. It's a relentless pursuit of status, and honestly, it's completely detached from the reality of 2 families actually coming together. Take the number 50,000, for example. What does that even represent? Well, it's not the venue. It actually starts with a dizzying, over-designed digital wedding card popping up on your WhatsApp. You know the ones. They're so complex they kind of make your head spin. But the real absurdity we found in the source material is this: a basic, lovely photograph that realistically costs, what, maybe 500 rupees to produce? It gets completely masked by a massive 50,000 rupee aesthetic filter or some elaborate pre-wedding shoot and digital editing package. It is pure illusion. Spending 50 grand just to convince your social circle of your status through a phone screen, that is the ultimate example of wasteful expenditure, and the main event hasn't even kicked off yet. Well, eventually, that digital facade spills over into the physical world. And instead of celebrating our local heritage, like, say, the rich, vibrant aesthetics of a traditional Rajasthani cultural environment, the demand suddenly shifts toward forced events and imported foreign themes. Suddenly, the vendors are the ones dictating the cultural terms. They push aside our authentic local roots for, well, whatever the latest imported trend happens to be. Those sacred, intimate ceremonies are just transformed into these exhausting, multi-day theatrical productions. And the sheer pace of it is just exhausting, right? Now, a choreographed dance is mandatory for the haldi. You absolutely have to hire a professional singer for the mendi. The Sangeet isn't just family sitting around singing anymore. It is a full-blown feel-me production with backup dancers. The tent vendors insist you need some super expensive theme, and the florists, they'll literally tell you local flowers aren't good enough, and you absolutely must have imported foreign flowers. It's just this overwhelming, chaotic checklist of demands from society and vendors that completely sidelines the actual couple getting married. This brings us to the food, which is where the sheer irony of modern weddings really peaks. The family has probably stressed over a literal culinary mountain. We're talking 50 different items on the catering menu. But who is actually eating? Almost nobody. The guests are entirely consumed with taking photos, perfectly staging their plates for social media status, and then they just put their phones down and leave the food to go cold. It's a hilariously tragic visual when you think about it, an absolute abundance of food that serves more as a photo prop than actual nourishment. But, you know, the humor really stops here. Because while everyone is busy taking selfies, the financial foundation of the family is actively crumbling. The bride's family is often crushed under the weight of this massive production, forced to take out crippling loans just to keep up with these ridiculous societal expectations. Meanwhile, and this is starkly contrasted in our source, the groom's side is casually sending over lists of expected gifts. It really highlights a painful stagnation in our changing society. We've eagerly adopted all these expensive, modern aesthetics, but we've held onto, and honestly even amplified, the most oppressive, financially devastating burdens of the past. So, after all that, we finally arrive at the actual day of the wedding, and the entire atmosphere is basically defined by 3 things: status, debt, and the noggin dance. This desperate pursuit of social status has completely overshadowed the sanctity of the traditions. The environment isn't one of solemn reflection or joyful union anymore. It's more like a high-wire act. You're just trying to manage appearances while completely ignoring the massive mountain of debt quietly piling up in the background. It is a perfect satirical snapshot of cultural chaos. Picture this. On one side of the venue, you have the priest sitting by the fire, solemnly trying to chant the ancient sacred mantras that, actually bind the couple together. But just a few feet away, the DJ is absolutely blasting music at max volume, and a group of relatives is wildly doing the noggin dance on the floor. It is pure chaos. The spiritual core of the ceremony is entirely drowned out by the noise. The traditions are technically there, but they are completely sidelined by the circus. And then comes the aftermath. Life passed by while paying off the debt. Let that sink in for a second. Life passed by while paying off the debt. This is the ultimate tragic reality that sets in after the tents are finally taken down, the expensive foreign flowers have wilted, and those 50,000 rupee photos are just sitting on a hard drive somewhere. The sheer weight of that wasteful expenditure means that instead of actually building a life together, the couple and their families are going to spend their best years simply trying to dig themselves out of a financial hole that they dug in a single weekend. Which brings us to the most vital question of this entire explainer. Is the wedding for the relationship, or is it just for the spectacle? Have we really allowed the impact of modernity and this desperate need for social validation to completely hijack the true purpose of marriage? When families are going into lifelong debt for a 50-item buffet that literally no one eats, and for foreign themes that have absolutely zero connection to their actual heritage, we have to ask ourselves, who exactly are they doing this for? Here is the beautifully grounding truth at the center of all this. Two hearts meeting, two people deciding to build a life together. That is the profound meaning of this entire institution. That is the big deal. Literally everything else, the massive tents, the crazy WhatsApp filters, the choreographed dances, the 50 dishes, the crippling loans, it is all just a wedding spectacle, an illusion. So as you step away from today's analysis, I want to leave you with this one thought. The next time you're involved in a wedding, are you going to feed the spectacle, or will you have the courage to actually celebrate the relationship? Think about it. Thanks for joining me to unpack this, and keep questioning the changing society around you.